You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome. This episode is brought to you by the Dog House OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Dog House have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Bank's where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Dog House. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedoghouseokc.com and follow them on Instagram at thedoghouseokc. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame today to bring you some bull riding content. Oklahoma's only bull riding team is going to be making its debut in July at Paycom Center. Pumped to be there. It's going to be awesome. And today we've got 2 gentlemen who are very, very involved. JB and Brandon, who coach and GM. Boys, you got a bit of experience in this industry, right? Been doing it a long time. JB considered one of the greatest of all time, and Brandon, you've been the voice for what, 2 decades?
Yeah, about 20 years. I was an announcer for a really long time, and then that kind of translated over into the business side of bull riding. And I was there for really JB's iconic moments and pretty much his whole career. In fact, we're not very far apart in age, and when JB came on the scene, what was it, like 06, 7? 6? Yeah. One of the stories I tell a lot of times about a couple of these guys, there's only been a few bull riders through, the 25 years that I've watched it, and even before I got involved on a high level. But the first time that I saw him, the first time that I saw Jess Lockwood, the first time I saw Silvano Alves, like those were 3 guys that the first time you saw them, you knew exactly what they were. There was no, it was like watching, a guy swing a golf club for the first time that has talent, like, somebody like Talor, right? Like, it's there. And so anyway, I mean, and then I was just fortunate enough to be behind the microphone, really for JB's entire PBR career. And had a lot of fun.
Yeah. How does that happen? How do you get behind the microphone growing up?
Be a really bull rider. Probably not that kind of podcast, but I mean, let's just get it out there.
Yeah, you got all the context, right? And then you just you have a voice for it, I guess.
There's just the truth. No, I mean, I was, I thought, my age, 8 Seconds was the popular movie whenever I was 8th or 9th grade. And that movie, I tell people all the time that movie really is the end product that we see in Western sports today. That movie was the catalyst. There's a couple things that happened. You had 8 seconds drop in the movies, and it became a blockbuster on a relatively low budget. And then at the same time, you had PBR almost simultaneously forming, breaking away from rodeo and creating their own entity. And it was just this catalyst, right, of just mega push for the sport. But what we see today in the popularity of PBR in Western sports at this level, it really is of those two forces coming together. When those 20 guys broke away from pro rodeo and formed the professional bull riders, and then 8 Seconds is becoming this folk legend, hero, whatever you want to call it. And we're still living it today. I mean, just this past weekend, PBR sold out an event in Jacksonville, Florida. The weekend before that, they sold out the Staples Center in Los Angeles. And then the other smaller tier events that PBR has as well, they're kind of their feeder system, they're selling out. I mean, it's really crazy to see the energy in Western sports right now.
Yeah. For those people listening that don't know the difference, what is the difference between PBR and rodeo?
He's probably the best one to answer that question.
PBR, strictly bull riding. I did both. Rodeo, it's every event. You got calf roping and the bucking horses, barrel racing, all that.
Yeah.
When they ventured out to PBR, they said, we can do this on our own. We don't have to be part of the rodeo. So they split off, standalone bull riding.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense. So why do you think that it's like selling out all the time then? Do you think that it's like, I mean, a lot of these sports that are coming on, it seems like health and safety's coming in, or there's a lot more, stuff like health and safety coming in to protect or whatever it is for any athlete. It seems like bull riding is like the last thing that's like, you could really, I mean, you did hurt yourself, right? Like, it's a huge reality that like, you might not come off with, you might not wake up.
Yeah, so that's true. Every time, that's part of it. Every time you nod your head, it could be the last time you nod your head. Yeah. And everyone knows that. But I was always taught when I was little, you play the game, you take the pain. And it has gotten more like, you were talking about health issues, things like that, which they cracked down on it. Like, I never in a million years thought I'd have to take a test to ride a bull, and they come out with a concussion test.
Yeah.
And, the balance part, and then you had a computer part to it, and I was like, I never thought I would ever have to take a test to ride a bull.
Yeah.
And, now in the PBR, if you're born after a certain year, I can't remember what it is, it's mandatory to wear a helmet. It's always been mandatory to wear the vest.
Okay.
And, they're trying to make it safe as possible, but with that being said, you're riding bulls. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, Brandon, you said, obviously, you told kind of a little bit about how you got into, being the voice of it. JB, for those people listening that don't, that know who you are but might not know the backstory, how do you get into it?
Well, my dad rodeoed. He steer wrestled, and when I was 3, they started letting me ride sheep, and
that was it.
Never looked back. They didn't necessarily want me riding bulls, but the guy that pretty much taught me to ride bulls, Mike Laws, he told him, said, if you hold him back now, you're only going to hurt him. He's going to do it either way. If you don't let him do it, when he gets old enough, he's going to go behind your back and do it. Would you rather be there watching him or not know what he's doing?
Yeah.
And so that really saved me. He saved me on my bull riding career because they always thought I was real little, and oh, he's too small, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And he said, if you hold him back, you're going to hurt him. So they went ahead and I guess got used to it.
Kind of worked out, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have a half-sister.
Okay.
She's 5 years older than I am, yeah.
She ride as well?
She rodeoed a little bit, but nothing.
Nothing. So for you, it was dad was like your kind of he
didn't have any clue about bull riding.
Yeah.
You know, he steer wrestled. So, and I roped and rode bucking horses, did it all the way up through high school. And I think when I was 16 or 17, I decided I was just going to stick with the bull riding because I was tired of paying to haul all those horses around when I was winning all my money on the bull riding and spending all my money hauling horses. And so
stick to bulls.
Yeah, we decided we were just going to stick to riding bulls. So.
Yeah. How's the industry changed then over since you started? And obviously you were Rookie of the Year when you stepped in. How's it changed since then to now?
Oh.
You can both answer that too. I'm interested to hear both your answers.
Well, I mean, it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
You know, it's growing, and it's a lot of it has turned more into an athlete side of things than being just an old school cowboy tough guy doing it. You see a lot more guys eating right, working out, doing things like that, and you know, that's each to his own. I never wondered about it that way, but you know, if that's what you got to do to be in shape to ride bulls, then that's what you do. But it just is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. I think the team part of it's going to make it even better than it already is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you asked a moment ago, like, why is it popular right now, or what's going on? I mean, there's a couple of, you know, I think economic factors that are playing into that. Number one, you're looking at, you know, a sport that it's kind of the last of the gladiator sports, right? I mean, this thing kind of really traces itself back to ancient Rome. I mean, where else and what else do we experience other than the UFC, right? That has this element of danger and risk taking and all those things. The economic side of it is, you know, I think we're in an entertainment driven economy right now. You know, you look at, you know, maybe not call it a recession or whatever, but you're seeing people pull back from goods and they're moving into entertainment. And with PBR still having a very affordable ticket for as high level of entertainment as they have, and when you've got every 8-year-old and 10-year-old on the planet begging their parents to pay $3,000 to go watch Taylor Swift, well, you know, a family night out for a $70 average ticket price at PBR seems like a pretty good deal. And I think you're seeing that right now. And it's just if you're a Western sports fan, if you're, you know, involved in this level of sports from the PBR side and rodeo in general, like, it's just a really good time to be alive. I mean, you know, because we're seeing a growth in the sport that I don't think we've really ever seen. And I think there's a number of factors. I think the economy is also, you know, really driving that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. How does this all come about? Like, I mean, I know Taylor and I know that he has a little bit of a background in it, but I know he had wanted to get into something outside of golf. I never could have guessed it was this. So I'm interested to hear from your side, like, how does this come about? How do you three, you know, get in a room and just be like, yeah, let's do this?
You want the truth, or you want the truth, or you want me to give you some?
I want to know exactly. I mean, we can edit stuff out if you want to, but I want to know. I mean,
it depends on, you know, how. I don't know how everybody feels about this, but I'll give you my take because I'm just never going to shy away from it. For me, I think it was a God factor. I really think, you know, Taylor and I share a lot of the same, you know, views in faith and church. We go to the same church and kind of have the same spiritual leaders as well. We didn't know that until we had met each other. You know, I had been living actually out in Park City, Utah for the past 7 years, and I moved back in, you know, early last spring. And then September rolls around, I get rumor that Taylor had attended a PBR event. I didn't know Taylor. I heard that he was looking at possibly purchasing this team, and I reached out to him. Here's the truth. I reached out to him to really tell him, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, you got a lot of money. Yeah. You're a professional golfer, and, like, this is not something you want to do.
There's easier ways to like money.
There's easier ways to make more money, right? And so, I'm not. I'll tell this story. I mean, I spent 60 days really kind of trying to, you know, maybe steer him in another direction, and then finally, it was early December. They, you know, sat me down, and he was like, "Hey," he's like, you're either with us or you're not. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm not going to let you go get crushed by yourself. So I guess I'm with you. And from that day on, it's been like, let's go figure this out. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I think this is a much, much bigger play. I think there's a lot of business and things that this is just step one. Like, the team is incredibly important to us because the team is really the foundation of a lot of the things that we'll do inside of Oklahoma City. But I believe from a spiritual factor that, there's God brought Talor and I together and the partnership together and eventually led us to JB and just the whole ball of wax. And you can't explain it any way else. None of us, I mean, I knew JB, but from Talor and Preston and the people that are involved in the sport, we didn't know each other at all. And so for us to arrive at this place mathematically just really doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That's what makes it exciting, right?
Yeah.
We've pulled this off now. Now it's just build the team and get after it. The team aspect, tell me a little bit about that. How does that differ? How, obviously because you're all individual bull riders, but like, how do you come together as a team? What's that, because that's a new thing for PBR, right?
It is. In a competition format, I would say. It used to always, you would see guys like when I first came around, you can ask him, there was a group of us, about 4 or 5 of us, we traveled everywhere together. Yeah. When summer run hit, when the televised events would take a break and we'd go to pretty much the minor league events, we stayed gone for 3 months. We lived together. And when we'd come back, we would be, whatever bull riding was closest, that's whose parents' house we stayed at that week. We just drove around. We were together all the time. And, it's kind of recreating that. The way they set their schedule up, it kind of took it away for a while. Okay. You were going so much, flying here, flying there, you didn't have time to really drive. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but it didn't make sense. Like bull riding, being in California the next week in Florida, so they were flying and everything. And I believe that the team aspect of it has brought it all back around. And guys come together because, when I have my traveling partners, if I was riding, they were on the back of the chutes for me. If they were riding, I was on the back of the chutes for them. We were always pulling for each other. Yeah, I wanted to kick their ass, but win first. But you want to see everybody do good, and I think it's kind of the same atmosphere. You get these guys together, you get them to be a team, and it's pretty much like having your best friends with you everywhere you go. Yeah. And I don't know, when we were doing that, we had a lot of fun. So it was fun, and we rode really good.
Yeah, well, you take the rough with the smooth, right? Like, you're all there together. Someone's gonna have a great weekend, someone's not. But when you're kind of on the road after, and I played golf in college, so I kind of had that team environment also as an individual. But you have that group of guys, right? Like you said, you travel together, you eat together. You go through the good and the bad. Golf's a lot more safe than bull riding. But there's so much stuff. I'll make sure I stand behind you every time I do see you.
Don't stand anywhere near me. So you might want to wear that helmet.
Oh, that reminds me. I almost killed Talor with a golf ball last week. That's another podcast. But JB, it's fair to say. I mean, you were pretty critical of teams. We all. Oh
yeah, right off the bat, I was still riding when they started conjuring this up. Yeah. And nothing was set in stone, or anything. They were just talking about it. Well, they were leaving me off of calls because they didn't want me to know about it. Because I guess they figured they knew how I was going to come about it. Well, when I finally got wind of it, I asked them when we were on a committee call, and they started explaining it to me, and I told them it's dummy. And they said, why? I said, I chose to ride bulls because I don't have a boss. I don't have a coach. And I'm not relying on Joe Blow over there to stay on his bull to make my living, and I'm not staying on my bull to make his living. This is not how this works. It's an individual sport. And, I just didn't agree with it at that time. I was like, I'm not doing it because the one question I asked them, I said, well, how much is the fine? They said, for what? I said, well, you're going to have coaches, right? They said, yeah. And I said, all right. I said, then I told him my name. I said, say he's my coach, and he comes to me and I rode bad on Friday night. Well, I'm in the locker room Saturday, I'm ready to go, and he comes and tells me I'm on the bench and somebody else is getting on the bull that I was supposed to be on. I said, how much you going to fine me? They said, for what? I said, knocking. I said, I rode bulls since I was 13 years old.
Right.
No one's ever told me when I could or when I couldn't. I said,
yeah.
I don't think I'm going to start letting them now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't agree with it at the time, but since they started, I see where it can go and what it can do. And I think if guys aren't getting in the team, they're missing out on a big opportunity.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think we all, I mean, I think, you know, I think there was a lot of critics, you know, of it when it first started. I mean, if we're all being honest with ourselves, I mean, a lot of the people that are involved now were very critical. And I think it was just, you know, a little bit of fear from the individuality separation of what we had known our entire life. You know, he's right. And being a part of it, you know, in that inaugural season, I was a part of it as a general manager of the first team that was here in Oklahoma. They moved, and when they moved to Florida, like I had no interest, obviously. But to go back, was it 2009 when we went to Brazil? Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you a quick funny story. Yeah. Everybody loves stories on podcasts. So JB, although critical of the team concept a little bit, he also was a part of really what was the earliest foundation of PBR teams, and that was what we called the Global Cup. And it was kind of a brainchild of a former CEO that PBR had, where we would take, you know, Australia, Brazil, Mexico, Canada, and America, the top 5 powerhouses in bull riding. And they would have teams of 5 guys, and those guys would go compete in one of those home countries. And the first year we did it was in Brazil at this huge rodeo called Barretos. And it was crazy. I mean, it was 80,000 people.
Some of the biggest crowds you played in front of, or rode in front of?
The wildest thing I've ever seen. And I was there.
They could throw a party down in Brazil, right?
Yeah, I was there as the announcer, and they speak Portuguese, and I was there as the announcer, if that tells you anything. I mean, it's just the craziest experience that we all had. So here's the funny story. So, and I did not think we were going to get out of there alive that night. But so comes down to the end, and USA and Brazil are just battling each other because they're the 2 powerhouses in bull riding. He knocks one down for, I mean, we had to be 90, 91, something like that. And it was clutch. I mean, it was the deal that sealed it. Yeah. And so he steps off of his bull. There's 80,000 Brazilians, and they're all like passionately pulling for Brazil, right? And he steps off his bull, knocks one down, and he just does the old ear thing and just pops it to him.
You could have heard a damn beer can drop. Like, it was silent. And I stepped off, and I kind of looked around, and I went like this, and you want to talk about getting booed by 80,000 people.
Oh my gosh. And I thought when he did that, I
hauled ass out of there. I was like, oh, they're going to start humming beer bottles at me.
We're never going to get out of here. And 30 minutes before that, I had watched a fight happen in the very top row. I've never seen this in a sporting arena my entire life. There was a fight that happened in the very top row, and when they finally knocked the guy out, they crowd surfed him down the fans and threw him in the arena. Like, I mean, it was like, you talk about like gladiator.
Back to be the gladiator sport,
my gosh. Yeah. Like, so anyway, my point of that whole story is he has been involved in the team aspect of it from the earliest days and the earliest concepts. So he knows what it's like to flip that switch and need to ride for your team to be able to, you know, close the deal out.
Yeah. You mentioned, JB, you mentioned kind of early on, like people said, you know, you're too small to ride, and sounds like you kind of had that chip on your shoulder growing up to have that like can-do attitude. I'm going to show you. And that ties into the story of just being like, look, you know, I'm going to show you. And there's so much fun to that too. It's so much fun to play to a crowd and be a showman. But also as an athlete, the confidence that maybe it starts with, you know, faking the confidence, and then you like have some results and you're like, no, I'm the now. Like, and I'm going to show you.
I've always told them, you know, there's a fine line between cocky and confident, but there is a line. If you don't believe in yourself, then there's no point in doing this at all, because all the odds are stacked against you from the word go. If you don't have a chip on your shoulder and pride in this game, you're not going to make it very far. Yeah. If you don't want to be, you know, a badass and show everybody, then what's the point in even doing it?
Yeah. What, when you were riding, what was your process mindset going into, you know, that? Like, because I mean, I've talked, you talk to athletes, and someone who comes to mind is I interviewed Matt Hoffman, who was a BMX guy, who was kind of like the Tony Hawk of BMX. And he talked about like he set world records for, you know, being the highest, kind of on a half pipe, and he just said everything slows down, and I feel like I can control everything, and it happens so slow to me. And I'm interested to see if that's the same way.
Some rides, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, if everything was going smooth, they slowed down. It seemed like it took forever for 8 seconds to get over with. But if they were going, you know, well, like, I mean, if it was going smooth, it kind of rolled by quick. I mean, I said that backwards. I was thinking about the second thing I was going to say. But if it was going smooth, it kind of just rolled on. Like, the next thing you know, the whistle blows. But if it was going bad, gosh, damn, that whistle couldn't blow fast enough. You know, if you're in a dog fight and just out of shape and getting all the power, then it took forever. Yeah. And, you know, I went about it different than a lot of guys, but...
In what way?
I mean, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it.
Okay.
Like, I worked at it every day of my life. Like, I acted like I didn't work at it as much. But when I went home, that's all I did. I studied bull riding every day. And when I was at home, I got on practice bulls. Whether I'd won the event, whether I fell off every bull that I got on that weekend, I went home and I worked at it. I got on bulls every day, just repetition. And, you know, a lot of people didn't know that because they didn't see what I was doing at home. And I never worked out. I never lifted weights. I never went to the gym, but I worked every day, worked bulls, same thing I do to this day still. I get up early, I work all day long. And, you know, that's what I don't know. I feel like you know, a lot of guys now are more athlete side of things, you know, eating right, eating healthy, you know, going to the gym, trying to take care of their bodies, and that's fine. But you can't take the cowboy completely out of it. It just doesn't work. You're not, I mean, it's not gonna, the equation doesn't add up. Like, you still have to, when it comes down, and that's what I always think, when it comes down to the bitter end, and you make that decision whether you're gonna hang on and make the whistle and take the stomping that's coming with it, or you turn your head and you quit the ship. That's where the cowboy comes in. The athlete checks out then, and the cowboy better step in, you know. And I was more just straight old school cowboy about it. Like, I tied my hand in there where I meant for it to stay, and unfortunately sometimes my ass just wasn't near my hand.
It's a great analogy too. Do either of you know where that term, the bitter end, comes from?
I do not.
Do you ever know? Yeah. So it's a Navy term. So basically, you know, they drop the anchors in the chain that drops the anchors that's on the coil. So if anyway, it's a once it's I think it's yellow. I'll get the colors wrong, but it may be red. But once you get to the red part or the yellow part of the chain, that's the term. It's the bitter end. Okay. Because if you don't, like, when you get there, like, that's it. You're wrecked. Like, that's why they call it the bitter end.
Okay, I've learned something today. More than one thing, actually.
So, talking about working hard, getting reps in, just kind of grinding while no one else is watching, you attribute that to your success?
Oh, yeah. All of it. You know, when I was younger, I didn't have the talent to ride bulls. The one thing, and I've told a lot of people, a little bit of try will outweigh a bucket of, you know, like a talent any day. I've seen guys that had all the talent in the world, just naturally could do it, but didn't have the balls to go with it. And I was the opposite side of the coin. I didn't have I whipped my free arm around. I didn't use it correctly. I was making moves that But I did whatever it took to make the whistle, and I was not going to turn loose till my head hit the ground.
Yeah.
And eventually, I figured out how to ride them.
Where does that kind of stubbornness come from then?
I don't know. I guess they said my grandpa, he was pretty stubborn like that, so I guess it bled down to me. But I was always the type when I was little, I didn't like losing. Yeah. And at anything. Like, I wanted to win at everything. Yeah. And I'm still that way. Like, you know, there's guys come over to the house, and if we're not doing a whole lot that day, we'll sit down in the dang office. In my office, I got a PlayStation sitting in there, and if we're playing Call of Duty or we're playing football, I want to win. I mean, it's just how it is on everything I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's what made me as good of a bull rider as I was, is because I did not like losing, and I wasn't going to quit. Right. And whatever I had to do to make myself better, I did it.
Yeah.
the perfect way to ride a bull, right? But
Yep.
and you can, like I said, eat right, don't do this, but like you just said, like the mental side of thing, that's reps. But how do you as a coach think that like you can pass that on in a way that gets someone in that mindset?
It shouldn't be that hard with guys that are already doing it for a living, because they know what it takes to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just need a push in the right direction. And if you get the right guys around and the right guy running it, then you're all going to think the same. Okay. A buddy of mine said it in an interview: you run with wolves, you learn how to howl. And that says it the best. Then you're all going to think the same. Okay. A buddy of mine said it in an interview: you run with wolves, you learn how to howl. And that says it the best. My dad, the best advice I was ever given by my dad was, travel with guys that are as good as you or better. Yeah. Because you're only as good as the guys you travel with. So if you're in a locker room with one person, all it takes is one guy that's down and out and negative, and that'll bust everything down. That'll tear it all down. Yeah. And it took me a long time riding bulls to figure out to take the good with the bad, because there was no one that hated losing more than me. And when I got bucked off, I caused it. I did something wrong, and it'd eat at me. Well, then it would roll over to the next day in my right, and you'd see it. I'd, struggle a little bit, but once I learned, get madder and hell at myself. But when you walk out of that locker room that night, nobody gives a shit. Yeah. Tomorrow's a new day. Forget about it. And as soon as I figured that out,
that was the turning point. Yeah. Brandon, what are you excited for to see kind of JB take on this new role as a coach after seeing him ride for his career?
No, I mean, I think he's got I couldn't think of there's just no way I could think of anybody better but because I know his mentality. I know what he's talked about when talk about struggling with talent but having the ability to you're asking a human to do something that is insanely unnatural, right? You're asking them to throw out self-preservation and figure that out. He can teach everybody how to ride bulls. The thing I'm excited about for him is his ability to get them mentally into a position where they have to understand that self-preservation's done. And if you have a question about that when you come into this locker room, it's funny, you guys were just talking and I was just envisioning, what it's going to be like the first time in the locker room and kind of what I'm going to say before he, takes over in those final moments to get those guys ready. And I will tell them that if you are the 5 starters that are going tonight, you guys are unequivocally the best team in this league because we've assured ourselves of that. So if you have any questions, it's time to stop asking questions, because by the time we dwindle down to our 5 starters, there's no doubt that we believe unequivocally that they are going to be the best guys in the league. And, I mean, they're going to run through a gauntlet. I mean, we're going to start with a roster of 12 guys. We'll get a cut down to 7 protected slots and 5 starters. And they're all going to have to fight for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that process? You start with 12. Do you guys already have guys?
We'll have the expansion draft on April 10th.
Okay.
Main draft May 29th.
Okay.
And then we'll start building, that roster of protected guys, practice guys, who we think is going to make the cut and, go through. And then, we kick off the season. So we kick off the season on July the 12th. And if he can translate to them a little bit of what he has, I don't know how you beat them. I don't know, because if they do start losing, if they start losing, we'll burn the house down.
Yeah.
Right. We'll make changes quick, and some guys are going to make it, some guys are not.
Right. It's competitive business. You're going to set a high standard, and the great thing about being a coach is that you've done it, right? Yeah. You what you've done, and everyone has a lot of respect for you because of what you've done. It's, and I'm not saying that some coaches who haven't done that, you look at Belichick or whatever, has never played football, but he's still one of the greatest. But I think a lot of the people who generally come in that have gone from player to coach at a very high level, they already have an instant respect, right?
Well, they do. And even at my house right now, we'll buck bulls, guys. And there's only a handful of guys that will come to my house and get on. because they know how I am. I don't sugarcoat anything. Like, for sure when it comes to riding bulls, and I'm pretty hard on guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna, because I went through the same thing, but I did it to myself. Nobody was standing there helping me. Like, these guys have the opportunity of a lifetime to jump 10 steps that I had to do on trial and error. I didn't have someone there telling me, hey, you need to get on more, you need to do this. I just did it on my own. And whether I was hurt, broke foot, whatever, I got on bulls. And no one had to tell me to do that. And some guys are right there borderline on being a mediocre bull rider or a great bull rider, and some of them just need a push. Yeah. And when they come around me, they'll get the push, because I'm not going to cut them any slack. Like, I'll tell them exactly how it is. And if they're a little bit weak-hearted, it's not going to go over very good, because that's one thing I can't stand. And when I would get mad at myself when I got bucked off, was because I felt like I quit the ship too early. That's when I really got mad at myself. If one just handed me my ass and just flat out bucked me off, I was mad because I knew what I did, but it was a different mad.
Different. Yeah.
Like, if I felt like I didn't try all the way till my head hit the ground, like, I couldn't live with myself. Like, I hated myself. Like, it just ate at me. And because I prided myself on being a cowboy, and when I tied it in there, I meant for it to be there. So.
Yeah. So the teams, like the guys who are going to make that roster, are they going to come to train with you down at the ranch?
Yeah, that's ultimately his question to answer, I guess. But they're going to have to. I mean, it's funny. Like, since this announcement happened, it's kind of leaked in the Western world that he was going to be the coach. But there's been a lot of guys that are currently free agents or that are out there that have reached out to him via text message or whatever, and have been like, hey, like, I want to be on your team. And the only thing that I'll say to them, because whenever I was the GM of the Oklahoma team, I took a very direct role inside of the locker room, because my coaches didn't have a lot of fire. Okay. And love those guys, and
just
especially
our
head coach Cord McCoy, very reserved. He can't be mean to anybody ever, right? Yeah. So if you go watch, like, there's times where I'm in there straight Bobby Knight, as a GM, which is weird. But I won't, this time I have the opportunity to take the complete business role all the way through. That's what he's for. He has the ball there. That's not my job anymore.
I can be mean to all of them.
Yeah, and
that's your job.
Even when they do good. Yeah,
but
I'm still picking apart.
Talking about the guys that are reaching out or saying, "Hey, I want to be on this team." Like, the only thing that I say to them is, like, you better be careful, because if you get what you're asking for, it may not be the bed of roses you think it is.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned the business side of it and being a GM. For people listening that, again, this might be the first introduction to them knowing what PBR is. What is the business side of it? What does it look like? It's not just obviously riding bulls and getting a team together. There's sponsorships, money, whatever it is. Like, shine a little light on that. Sponsorship,
travel, team uniforms. I have a director of team operations in Chris Dashney and Prodigal, the staff that's the Prodigal LLC, which is the sports group down here in Oklahoma City. Like, they help with all of those things, but just managing that entire process, sponsorship, corporate relationships, roster management is a big one. Like I expect him to coach, but I don't expect him to be looking at the board and going like, hey, if we trade this move this piece and that piece, and like, can we do those things, and what can we get in future consideration and give up this pick, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of complicated processes that go into that. So as you can tell by his reaction, like, there's a lot of
one day.
I was getting to say coaching's about to get a lot more difficult.
There's a lot of things that we'll do from a GM role. I'm not in any way, shape, or form comparing myself to Sam Presti, but I would say that the managerial role of all of our staff and athletes probably is very relatable to any other sport in be it the Thunder or whatever. Right? There's always somebody behind the scenes pulling levers.
Yeah.
I'm just the guy behind the guy.
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Glad that you have him?
Yeah. I don't want to figure out trading.
Yeah, you should tell the guys how to ride a bull. That's about it. Keep it that way. Yeah. Today, obviously, it's been a pretty big day for you, with the announcement and the press conference. You got the governor here, the lieutenant governor. Talk to me a little bit about kind of what this means, because obviously it's not just an Oklahoma City team. This is an Oklahoma team, and it's the only Oklahoma team. So
shed some light on that. Talk to me about kind of what that is. I know that's a lot of Taylor's vision too, is to have like, you know, he obviously is a huge fan of his home state. You know, like a lot of golfers who have moved to Florida and play dome golf in Jupiter where everyone else is. He's chose to stay in Oklahoma because he loves it here. He's built his family here, his roots are here. So what does that mean, and what's that like having an owner that really is set on state pride and kind of sharing that Oklahoma story?
You know, there's a lot of great ownership groups in PBR teams. I think for my personality, definitely JB's personality, and like I could not imagine. Like I said, when I spent the first 60 days with Taylor, being like, "Are you sure? Like, are we really want to do this?" There was that, but at the same time, now that we're through all that and we've, you know, done all the vets and all the checking off and everything, and here we are. And I can't imagine working for anyone else. Like, I just can't. Like, I wouldn't want to. Whenever Taylor, you know, and I first met, like I said, I was the GM of the Oklahoma team, and they had went and decided they were going to move to Florida when that new ownership group. I mean, I spent, you know, probably 30 days talking to that ownership group about, you know, them inquiring about my interest, and I didn't really have any interest. And honestly, I was completely content walking away from the sport forever. Like, I was done. Like, I had been involved in some other business things. I have 3 girls. We all live here in Edmond and in the Oklahoma City area. And I was completely content being out of Western sports totally. And that was a great path for me. But now that, you know, Taylor's involved, like, I'm certainly reinvigorated and I love Taylor. Like, I don't, you know, it's kind of a cheesy word, but I'm just such a fan, and I think that Taylor is, you know, he's on the verge of, you know, such a breakthrough. You talk about him, when I say such a breakthrough, I mean, he's the Live Player of the Year, right? I understand that, but I think Taylor has the type of talent. I told him this the other day. We played a practice round together before he left to go to Jeddah on this trip, and I just told him, I said, don't come home without $8 million because he's playing 2 tournaments, you know, and I'm like, because, you know, you talked about him living in Oklahoma and why everybody else is in Jupiter. Like, what makes Taylor such a better golfer, I think, than probably everybody else right now is the fact that he plays the hardest course in the world every single week.
He took you out to Oak Tree?
Oh, I mean, I live there. So, I mean,
you're going to get beat up.
Is the, you know, that's what nobody understands. They're like, can you imagine how fast the greens are at Augusta? Can you imagine this? I'm like, if you never played Oak Tree National, there's not another course. It's the highest slope rated course in America. And
it's borderline dumb. Is what
it is. It's not borderline dumb. Like, it is. And like, for a guy like that to practice there every single day and go experience and live that, like, you're not going to put him on a course anywhere else that's going to even be anywhere close to that. So I don't know, man. Like, I love, he likes to stir the pot a little bit. I like to stir it too. Like, I think he's the best player in the world.
You guys are a great fit. Now I can already tell.
Yeah. So.
And I'm glad that 60 days went good, because during those 60 days, I was sitting at home with a broke neck thinking, what in the hell am I going to do?
What am I supposed to do now? Yeah. I can only play so much Call of Duty.
Yeah.
You could have been the number one player in the world if that hadn't gone too well. Sat at home getting fat playing Call of Duty. All right, let's finish up with some fun questions. You guys spend a lot of time on the road. Favorite road snacks?
His are Marlboro Reds.
That's my favorite. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, in between, brunch.
Yeah.
All day long.
Okay.
I don't know. I like cheese Danish.
Cheese Danish.
For a snack. If I stop and get a drink and a snack, I usually get a cheese Danish.
Okay.
I don't know. That's weird.
I'm addicted to the gummy nerds, like the little gumball thing that they've been like. Obviously, everybody's addicted to them because they're making national commercials about them.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think you spend a lot of time in trucks. What brand? What's your favorite brand of truck? Are you loyal to a brand?
No.
No? Who's ever sponsoring you because you put a lot of miles on it?
Well, I got Ford as the main ones. I've got an old 99 Dodge that's a work truck I drive around, and I've got a Peterbilt that we're remodeling and redoing, so semi.
What's your prized possession?
I'd have to say my prized possession that I would never get rid of, I'd always keep, I'd have to say my wife and my son because they would bring them back. They would bring both of them back.
Yeah, same. That was exactly the same answer I was going to give. Like, that's my.
It's not the answer I want.
My family. I know.
What did you give me? Family answers. Come on.
That was it.
Well,
I mean,
you should meet my wife. She's a female version of me.
there could not be two more humans built perfectly for each other.
Love that.
And then we created a little monster.
A little monster.
And he'll cuss you like a man too.
How old's the little monster?
5. Just turned 5.
Is he riding sheep yet?
Calves already.
Okay.
I put him on a couple sheep, and unfortunately, the way I go about things, they weren't very good starter sheep. They were wilder. I thumped his ass a few times, which that didn't bother him, but the last time he got on one, it ran and ducked under the out gate, which is a steel gate, and I mean clotheslined him.
Yeah.
Swiped him off pretty hard, and I said, "You all right?" He's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I don't want to ride sheep anymore." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "I want to ride calves." So I was like, "Okay."
All right.
So now he's on the calves.
Yeah. I mean, you know how you were brought up, right? It seemed to work out. So, and he's obviously a little.
I'll let him make his own decisions. Like, I mean,
yeah.
He does it when he wants, and then if he don't want to ride him that day, I don't ever say nothing. That's because I'm not pushing it on him.
Yeah. Any pets that mean the world to you?
Any what?
Pets. Dogs.
Pets.
Cats. Bulls are pets too, but like any other ones that
Everything dies, bro. Yeah. Everything dies. So.
Yeah, everything dies, but I'd have to say the one right now is the bull that was recently given to me.
Okay.
The last bull I ever got on. One that broke my neck.
Was that one of Colt's?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Matt Sharping, guy from Minnesota, owns him. Arctic Assassin. I called him. So what are you going to do with him? He said, well, he's getting older. I'm going to retire him. And he has a deal with a guy that's from Stephenville, and he'll send them older bulls down here for the winter, so it's not so hard on them. And I said, well, just put him on the truck with Arctic in there, with airtime and them to come to Scott's. And he said, why? I said, I want him if you're going to retire him. He said, well, let me call my partner that's on him. He called him. He called back. He said, well, send him to you. You really want him? I said, yeah. So I have him and a buddy of mine, Randy, had a bull, and he's a pet too, and he's older and retired bull, bucking bull, but they're my yard ornaments. They stay in a trap all by themselves. All they do is eat all day. They're fat, and you can scratch all over both of them like big dogs.
Why have a bull and a constant reminder of the reason you're not riding anymore?
That doesn't bother me. I mean, that's the way he had a job to do. I didn't do my job.
Okay.
I was the one that got myself in the situation.
Okay.
And, that's what I told him. He said, why do you want him? I said, there's not too many people who can say they have the last bull they ever got on standing right there. Unfortunately, he's just a big dog, gentle pet that ended it all. Out of all the mean bulls I got on my entire career, and the one that walks around like a big dog and lets you scratch all over him, like literally you can scratch anywhere. His legs, under his neck. Like I take a curry comb that you brush horses with, and I just sit there and brush him, and he'll just stand there and he'll move around to wherever spots you want, and I guarantee you, he probably weighs 1,700, 1,800. He's a big bull.
How old is he?
10.
Oh, so he's got a while.
What's the average life of a bull?
I mean,
And they can, I'd say average might be 12, 13, 14.
some of them. I've seen some that go on to 18.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
okay.
just.
Yeah,
Similar to dogs.
If they're taken care of and nutrition is good, 15 wouldn't shock anybody.
Yeah.
All right, final question. Cowboy way of life is a way of life that I think should be taught and shared more often, especially in the way that the world is today, not just inside PBR, but on a wider sense of the world. How do you go about spreading that way of life, that message, those values, whether it's through religion, right? You guys are all kind of brought up around, or just raised in good families. How do you go about shedding that and sharing that light to the outside world and outside of PBR to also ultimately help bring people to PBR, but create good human beings outside of it?
See the cowboy way?
Yeah.
Take the keyboard away from.
Probably gonna have to edit that one out.
Well, that is the problem, because they sit back there, talk all this crap, and don't have to. There's no consequences.
Sure.
No
No one's shaking hands. And looking people in the eye.
Before cell phones and all that, you smart off somebody and then you had to deal with it.
Yeah.
And now it's not that way. Anybody thinks they can say whatever they want to and nobody's going to do anything. And that's the problem with a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit on both sides of the fence on the whole on the cowboy thing, and I say it's obviously very, very critical to me. And I own a ranch in southern Oklahoma, and it's a family legacy ranch, and I partner with a cousin, so it's very important to me to continue that way of life and tradition. And on the other side of the fence, you'll also see me in golf pants with tennis shoes and a backwards hat, and so I do kind of live, both lifestyles, but no matter where I go or who I'm with, or, it's always yes, ma'am, no, sir. Like my kids are the same way. But I think at the same time too, a lot of it has to do with just, honesty, honesty and integrity. And, to kind of story about him, I mean, I'll just lay it out there. There's probably no one who's lived a wilder lifestyle and call it mistakes or life lessons or just experience. Like you could put them all in the same category, right?
I called it a good time.
Yeah, called it a lot of fun, right? Yeah, he lived a very wild and fun lifestyle, but at the same time, I've also seen him up at 5 a.m., the first to say yes to an interview, the first person to stand in line to sign kids' autographs, to never be the first one to run to the locker room and just hide. Like I've seen, I've also seen that side of him as well, and I think, that integrity and just honesty and, like when you say you're going to do something and you tell somebody you're going to do something, then you do it. And there is no easy way out, right? And that's the thing I try to instill to my kids all the time is I'm like, there's one thing we don't do in this house. We don't lie. And if you get in trouble or you do whatever, you just walk in there and you take it in the teeth and get it over with. And, that to me is a lot of the whole, cowboy way of life is like, just be honest.
Yeah. Jagger, I don't think he's got a snowball's chance. Like, I'll take him with me, and my wife really makes sure he eats healthy, eats correctly. I'm the opposite side of the coin. I eat like a worst 12-year-old you ever seen, like snacks, pudding cups, just just nasty.
Danish.
And she's over there fixing, I have to hide everything from him to where you can't see it. Well, takes A1 care of this kid. Well, he'll be with me and we'll go eat lunch. And as soon as we get home, it walks through the door. Oh, Daddy, let me have a muffin. I'm like,
yeah, can't win.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned the word legacy. Brandon, you were almost ready to hang it up. This brought you back in. JB, obviously, this came around as probably nothing you expected to be doing when but not as soon as you'd expect to be doing it. But what does legacy mean to you? What do you when I say the word legacy, what do you think of?
Man, I don't know. That you've probably asked that question to Talor because I know that's a big one in conversation we've had about legacy and his decision to go to live golf and to be able to leave a legacy for his family. And while everybody's, hollering and screaming at him and telling him that you can't go, I'm going to get in trouble for this one, but don't take the blood money from the evil Saudis and all that stuff, and which they're not, right? Like I always say, and I'm really going to get in trouble for this, but it's like the PGA Tour doesn't have any crooks. Like give me a break, right? Like it's it's the whole check the speck in your eye before you remove the thing out of your eye, forget to miss the plank and the whole deal. You know what I'm trying to say, but. Yeah. Legacy for me, is really just like it's kind of cheesy, but it's just about honesty and integrity. And, I don't really care how much money I'm going to make or any of that. Like, it's just fun credits. Legacy for me is not necessarily money because in the day and age we are right now, like it's all just numbers on a spreadsheet. Sure. Like they can print more of it whenever they want. Like who really cares?
Yeah.
But it damn sure wasn't about money for me because I could have picked a whole lot
something different. Yeah.
What could it, before you answer the legacy question, what could it have been if it wasn't bull riding?
Oh, I don't know about the bull riding. I don't know anything. I'm just saying the way I went about my bull riding.
Okay.
The way I picked in the drafts, whether I was sitting first or last, I never had to fight over what bull I wanted because they were going to leave me the one I wanted.
Yeah.
No one else wanted to get on him. But, in a sense, that was the pride. And, I always said whether I won a world title or not or anything or how much money I ever won, I wanted people, when they said my name, that they knew that no matter if I was hurt, beat up, I never had any backup. I went 100% every time I nodded my head, and I feel like I did that in my career. And, because if I was wanting to play it smart or try to be a businessman, I probably would have picked different bulls when I'd get on them.
Love it. Well, boys, it's been a pleasure. Congrats on an awesome day. Wish you the best for the launch and the debut in July 12th, 13th, 14th at Paycom Center. Hopefully I'll be there to see it in person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to hear from Talor. Talor was out of town during the first interview I did with JB and Brandon, but now I just caught up with Talor and had his thoughts on being an owner of a PBR team and Oklahoma's only PBR team. So now you're going to hear from Talor Gooch, and thanks so much for listening. Talor Gooch, you are a PBR owner now. How's that feel?
It sounds wild. Everyone kind of will ask me about it, and they're a little bit surprised. And so I've gone into these questions saying, hear me out. Because at first it does sound crazy that this golfer is getting into the PBR world, bull riding world. But once I kind of explained to them, the full story and the reason and everything, they're all like, okay, makes sense.
Because I think Brandon even said, I tried to convince him out of it.
Yeah. His first call with me was basically like, you sure about this? So yeah, I was sure.
Yeah. So what is your, ties to the bull riding world then? Other than, because everyone knows you from golf, right? And nobody saw this coming from you, right?
Yeah. This is my only ties to the bull riding world. I've been on a bull. I've never ridden a bull. I've never, been in the ring with the bull, aside from hitting a couple bunker shots over him on one time. But again, like I said, it was a perfect storm of an opportunity to do something cool here in Oklahoma City, be a part of something that is, I think, going to bring some value and some fun and something that's going to connect with the community. And there's a lot of crossovers with what I've done recently in the golf world in regards to kind of switching to the team golf with Liv, and what PBR is trying to do with creating a team sport from a traditionally individual sport. So there's just a lot of parallels in this new PBR team series with this Live Golf stuff. So that's really what kind of captivated my attention in the initial. I was watching it and the Amazon series, the ride, and then went to the home event, and I was like, man, this is Live Golf, except instead of golf, it's bull riding.
Yeah. Around the realest human beings there are.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Like they're crazy.
Correct.
But they're also kind of just stand-up guys who, I'm sure there's a lot of ties too professionally as well, right? Mindset of just turning your brain off and being like, I know what I'm going to do, but turning the doubts off, right? Because again, golf's mental, but also bull riding's pretty freaking mental as well, even though it's a short time. And obviously not as, you're not going to die from playing golf, touch wood, but you are going to die from, you could potentially die from riding a bull, but I'm sure there's ties there as well. But for you, you've always been about the 4 or 5, you've always been about Oklahoma, to have this and have your own ownership team, have ownership in a team that is purely Oklahoman, from the Oklahoma Wildcatters. That must feel really good.
It's cool, man. Like I said, that the stars kind of aligned with the franchise the previous Oklahoma franchise moving to South Florida, I was like, this just feels like it was meant to be. And like you said, with the mental aspect, that's one thing Brandon and I have talked about a bunch, is like, yeah, bull riding and golf are different sports. One you could seriously get hurt and injured from. The other one, and you're not really going to get hurt and injured from, but it's overcoming fears. It's committing to what you're doing. So there's a bunch of mental parallels between the two sports.
Yeah. Talk about JB. I mean, like the greatest, one of the greatest, if not, this is my limited knowledge of bull riding, but it seems like he is the greatest of all time. And I had no idea that audio clip of like, is the $7 million was about him until I met him. Yeah, well, how does it feel to have one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time, be your coach? Yeah,
and that was, again, you know, as the stars continued to align with this venture, it was he was a big part of it. We before we even, you know, committed moving forward with the team, we've met with JB, and that was through Brandon, and you know, I was like, I mean, do we have an opportunity to do, you know, get one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever, to be our coach in Oklahoma? I mean, all the stars are aligned, and like I said, you know, JB is, I mean, he's as real as it gets. He's as great as they come as far as bull riding, and once we had the opportunity to get him, I was like, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah. What was the reaction among like your group of guy friends that actually know bull riding that you had, you know, JB coming in?
Oh, I mean, he's the Wayne Gretzky, the Tiger Woods, the Michael Jordan, and so anyone that knows anything in that world is like wide-eyed, right? They're like, oh my gosh, you're getting JB. And so yeah, it's funny, you know, as the word has spread, you know, kind of across the country with what we're doing with this, like anyone that knows anything about bull riding that I've talked to, they're like just kind of blown away that almost they're like, hold on, did you know that this dude was this dude? And I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, the stars and just aligned on this perfectly. And so yeah, man, he's a stud.
Yeah. Well, I know we've spoken previously about you know, you wanting to get into other things other than golf, that, you know, diversify your investment and whatever it is, whereas it's, you know, owning sports teams, owning something else, like getting away from golf to also build generational wealth outside of golf. And this is just kind of that first step into that. How does that feel to be like, because it's a gamble, right? You're taking ownership and this is kind of a big step for you. Mm-hmm. But how does that feel? And then as far as how does that tie into the, you know, the goal over time to continue to diversify and build wealth and not just be known for, hey, I'm Talor Gooch who plays golf?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those unique opportunities where I think there's a lot of upside in the valuation of these franchises, and so yeah, while there is, you know, it is a gamble, you know, it's also, you know, an opportunity to be a part of a sport still, and be a part of a sport that's growing, and be a part of the community that's going to continue to grow. So it's one of those, you know, like I said, just it's such a unique opportunity. It's not like I just woke up one day and said, let's go buy a bull riding team. It's amazing how kind of everything kind of aligned for this to happen. And yeah, it's an opportunity, like I said, to, you know, do something more than just golf. You know, golf's been such a blessing to me and my family, but you know, I want to have a life past golf, and you know, I want to have things that I do outside of golf, and this is just one of those avenues that you know, we start going into a different direction with some stuff.
Yeah. You are now a father of two, recently had a baby boy, Carter, to join Collins. Have you had any conversation with Allie about Collins riding sheep from a young age and getting on the bull riding ring versus golf?
That was basically the first conversation I had with Allie back last summer about this, when I was like, hey, we're going to be looking into this. And first thing she said, well, if this boy comes out, you know, into this world and wants to ride bulls, then I'm going to kill you. And so I said, all right, so rule number 1, Carter can't ride bulls. All right, duly noted. So yeah, we've kind of, had some jokes about it. And it's funny because JB has a son that is a little freaking bull riding machine, right? And so Allie came down when we went down to his ranch, and she got to see Jagger up close and in person, and he's the cutest thing ever. But also Allie was like, I can't deal with that. Like if Carter does that, I'm just gonna have a heart attack. I'm like, babe, trust me. His dad is in that world. I'm still in the golf world. Like, I think Carter has a much better chance of having a set of golf clubs in his hands than, getting on a bull.
Yeah, there's no way, right? Like, and I've seen the clips of his son too, and he's just a mini JB, right?
Oh,
like,
right.
As you would expect, just get on, hold on tight, hold on as long as possible. And that's where I'm glad, and I'm sure you and Ali are glad that the differences in bull riding to golf are as far apart as possible.
Correct.
But God, yeah, it's exciting though, right? Like, obviously, this whole live thing for the last few years has been exciting for you, and good, bad press, whatever it is, like you've been in the thick of it. And obviously very successful last year, and we won the season-long race, which is, awesome. And we're speaking about that at length. But this is something new, right? That takes you away from the sport of golf. That it's just like, it's. I'm sure it's stressful at times too, right? I'm not saying that it's not, but it's something that you can just switch the golf brain off and be like, I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna focus on this, and it's just, you don't have to think about all the noise and the golf for once, and that's got to be exciting too, right? And
it's the part of my brain that's always intrigued by different businesses. It's like, this is kind of gets that going, but it's cool, like I said, because it's still sport. It's still, there's the competitive nature of it, and so it's almost like I can get away from golf, but I can still compete. I can still be a part of like trying to grow something and trying to improve something, and it's almost like instead of my golf game, it's like, putting energy into this it's the same but different, like you said, because there's still stressful moments. There's still times where it's like, man, is this what we want to do here? Are we wanting to hire this person? Or we wanted to do this? And so there's that part of from a decision-making perspective that's similar to golf, as far as like, all right, we gotta, you gotta put the time in, you gotta commit to what you're doing, and trust the process, so yeah, it's been a interesting 6 months of this. I've talked with Brandon and Preston and JB, all these people that have been involved with this. I feel like we've had a crash course of entrepreneurship, structuring businesses, understanding PPMs, and all this stuff that I had no clue of prior to getting into this. And it's been super fascinating and super cool, and something I don't think, you necessarily could learn like at school, and that's what's cool, is we're getting real world kind of experience in this. And that was a large part as to why I wanted to, let's rip the Band-Aid off and do this and get going.
Is there any potential for crossover, meaning like having a bull riding event tied in with Live for the weekend and kind of the same town? Is there any opportunity there?
I think that could be very, very interesting. Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying that would be in Oklahoma City, but like it could be anywhere.
Right. No, I mean, without a doubt, like, part of what makes Live cool and fun from an experience perspective is like it's not just golf, right? It's like kind of the festival feel of it. Like, you don't go just for the golf part. There's the fan village there's the concerts after, there's all this stuff, and then golf being the focal point, but there's all this other stuff that you can do, right? And that's kind of, again, the crossover with this PBR team series. It's like, yeah, the bull riding is the focal point, but that's not the only draw, right? And so there's that kind of festival feel that I saw, like such similarities of Live and the team series, that I'm like, dude, I mean, this is something that goes hand in hand, where you could do, golf in the day, bull riding in the evening and the concerts at night. And so we've started having those conversations internally about what that could potentially look like. And, obviously, a lot would have to kind of come together for that all to happen, but there's a definite possibility that we could make that happen somehow. So that would be a dream come true, without a doubt. And even furthermore, if we could have, the home event for the Wildcatters tied in to a tournament in Oklahoma City, I mean, that would be it. That'd be sick.
I mean, we're sat in the clubhouse of one who could host one, right?
Yeah, correct.
That would be a dream come true, right? To have your home event, for Live and PBR being in your home state and home city like that. Yeah, that's talk about stars aligning.
Yeah,
that would be really cool. I can't let you get out of here without talking about that mustache. So, is that cowboy inspired? I mean, is Ali done with it, or for now? I mean, I can't believe she's let you have that for so long.
So, I think if I end up not waking up from sleep in the next couple weeks, it'll be because of this thing. Ali might just choke me out. I've kind of joked with her. Because it happened over the last two tournaments in Jeddah and Hong Kong. I just didn't shave, and my beard kind of got a little grizzly. And I got back, and I shaved some of it and left some of it, and just to kind of mess with Ali, and she hated it. And I was like, well, you're giving me so much crap about it. I'm just gonna leave some of it, just so you know. And now I'm joking with her. I'm like, I've never golfed with this. We don't know if this is a winning formula. We got a tournament in another week and a half. I might have to find out if this thing wins, because we've never experienced that. So if I can make it 2 more weeks to today, 2 more weeks from today is the first round of Doral, and if we can make it 2 weeks and see if it wins or not, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, if we see you after the second round with nothing, we know that the first round hasn't gone well.
Correct.
Right? But if you see after the second round, you still got it. Yeah, putts are going in.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, mate, super great to see that you take ownership. It's cool to see. It's great to see you dive into something completely different than golf. And we have home event coming. Was it July 17th? Mm-hmm. Something like this? Yeah. Paycom Center for everyone listening. Tickets will be in the description. And yeah, come support your Oklahoma's only PBR team with Talor Gooch, JB Mauney and Brandon, and the draft spin it would have been out, I guess, by now, so everyone will know what the team is. So yeah, I'll put the Instagram link to the PBR team if you're not already following it. And yeah, we'll see you in July.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome. This episode is brought to you by the Dog House OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Dog House have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Dog House. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.